I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We have a presentation from Keith Peters from the regarding historic trees from the Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The EAC has been talking with several councils and committees and boards on the township level, and we're trying to find out what the Board of Supervisors' pleasure is concerning whether to protect and preserve the trees and similar flora of the township. We should enact or propose for the supervisors to enact an ordinance or to have some other program that would recognize plants of significance, either historic or large, or a group of trees, for example, along a particular roadway or something along those lines. So that was the purpose of the memo that we included in the Board of Supervisors packet for this week.
It's a voluntary program, and if somebody has a legacy tree and they take it down, there's no penalty. Is that correct?
Well, that's right now there's nothing.
Nothing now.
And right now there's no ordinance and there's no program whatsoever. And we're asking...
I mean, under your program.
We're not actually proposing anything at this point.
Okay.
We're asking the supervisors if they would prefer to have us make an ordinance that was punitive in nature and would prevent people from cutting down trees and so forth to protect them, or if we should celebrate or recognize certain plantings of significance and so forth. But basically, it's the hammer versus the carrot approach, and we're asking the supervisors, which before the EAC goes through the steps of creating a program, what format that program should take.
I like the latter, personally.
He's got some.
Well, I don't want to speak because Keith and I, for the last 2 years, have been going through this, and to have something punitive to me is just not in the right vein. And if your approach is to have some kind of celebratory program, I don't have any problem with that. I'm not sure what it accomplishes, in that we've all got enough work as it is, but to dedicate some time and effort to that, I'm not so sure if you're going to get the benefits that you're going to put the work into. But bottom line, I have no interest in a punitive ordinance.
Thank you.
Well, this goes along the line of what the EAC has done with the historical trees. They have people registering them in the township, and I don't know how many total we have now, but some of the trees go back and have a lot of history. A few hundred years ago, when maybe some very important people lived around this area and had events happening under the tree and so forth. So I know one is in my neighborhood and has been registered. And it's supposed to be William Penn had some connections under the tree, so I don't know what that means. But it's kind of going along with that theory, basically.
Well, with a list of trees, you at least know they're there. And if something comes in with a subdivision application or a land development application, you can work with the applicant to try to preserve it and do what you can. So obviously identifying it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Let's take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any visitor or public comment this evening? Next meeting of this board is Tuesday, May 15th, 2012. Touch a Truck is Saturday, May 5th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Central Park. It's a free program. Shred event for Doylestown Township residents is Saturday, May 12th at 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Township Administration Building. And the annual Doylestown Township golf outing is Monday, June 4th, 2012. It's at Doylestown Country Club. Registration deadline is May 18th, and I believe it's an early tee-off. And, guys, we need foursomes, so you know anybody who's a golfer, try and put some foursomes together. And you guys, too. Everyone out there, foursomes. Or sponsorships, more. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, looking for minutes approval for April 17th.
Vote for approval.
Are there any questions or comments, changes?
I saw there's one correction, rationalization to regionalization on page 3.
Okay, thank you.
Make that correction.
Anything else with that one correction? Is there a motion to approve? Did you already motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any correspondence?
No.
Reports from the solicitor?
Nothing we won't discuss later in the agenda, Madam Chairperson.
Chief?
Just to update the board on the proposed bike patrol that we got the blessing of the April 17th meeting. Doylestown Bike Works has generously donated a bike to us. It should be here this week.
Awesome.
Business owners Fran Tallarico, Brian Boger, and Dan Turner have graciously donated the bike to us. We have all our equipment in, minus the bike, so we'd be good to go to our training next week.
Great, thank you. Send them some kind of thank you. Thank you. Anything else, Chief?
That's it.
Engineer?
Nothing at this time.
Manager?
I have one thing. I received an email from Larry Gregan, who's the manager in Montgomery Township, and he is looking to have the Parkway, Montgomery Township, to have it become a scenic byway designation. And he has prepared a letter to go to their representative, Stevens, seeking that in hopes to prevent things like billboards and things like that cluttering up the Parkway. And if you had the opportunity, which I know the Chief has, and Dick and I have had the opportunity to be out there, and it really is very scenic. They've done a nice job on it. So I'd like to propose to the board that we send a letter to our state representative, similar letter, also seeking the designation as a scenic byway.
You should also send it to your state senator as well.
Is there a motion? I'll move that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything
Nothing
else? Okay. Supervisors. Ms. Mannion, you care to start with anything?
I just want to thank the community for their outpouring of support for my mom's passing last week. There was tremendous support from everybody in Doylestown, and my mom loved Doylestown, and I think she made some great contributions to our town, and I surely will miss her, but it was just great to see everybody come out to support her and my family. So thank you for that.
Rick?
I just wanted to mention that we received a letter from the municipal authority thanking two of our employees, Paul Garr and Dan Markloff, and it's, as I mentioned before, it's every month or so we're getting people to take the time and effort to write a letter of thanks. And in this case, there was a water leak down in Doylestown Station. The water department couldn't get anyone there immediately to stop the leak, and it was getting worse and worse, and Paul and Dan excuse me, were able to respond with a backhoe and a dump truck. And as this gentleman mentions, as we go about our work duties, there are times when some things are overlooked or taken for granted. I did not want this to be one of those times. So thank you very, very much to the township and Paul and Dan.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, I have a couple of things. We had a pretty busy week, did a lot of good things, and on Thursday, Barbara Lyons and I attended a Pico Green Educational Trail dedication, which Kutch Elementary School attended and sang some great songs to us. And the thing was just handled so well, and I think we were very impressed by the students and how well they participated in that event. And then on Saturday, we had a big time down at which will be the new dog park for tree planting. And we had a lot of people turn out, some from the dog committee, some just students showed up and helped us plant trees. And we planted 8 trees and 75 shrubs. And, it was a massive job, and it went very quickly, and it was done exceptionally well. And it was done to actually make us Tree City, USA for the 14th straight year. A young gentleman from the Pennsylvania, excuse me, a gentleman came from the forest rangers of Pennsylvania and presented us with this flag. Actually, I don't know if we have it flying, Steffi, or where we put it, but it should be back here. And it was a great honor to be honored as the 14th straight year as Tree City, and that's very few. You got it? Very few municipalities have been honored in that for 14 straight years, and it's something we've have done and I'm very proud of, and creating the environment that we have in the township, and it's going to be there. What we planted will probably be there for the next 100 years. I don't think I'll be around to see the end of that results, but it's just wonderful, and the hard work that everybody's put into it. And then after that, there was planning in the Central Park, which I did not attend because I was quite involved in this other project. That they kind of coincided with each other, and I'm sure that turned out well too. So I just want to commend everybody who helped us obtain that position for Saturday and worked very hard for us. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Tom. Sean?
I have only one comment or one mention, and that's that the Fund Development Committee will not be, nothing scheduled for May or a May meeting while we still get our, they work through the concepts and ideas that were brought together at the last Ways and Means. So we're looking for a June meeting, so for anybody to keep eyes open for that.
Thanks.
So, thank you.
I would like the board to reconsider a decision we made 2 meetings ago, I believe, regarding our allowing the Doylestown County Seat Bicentennial Committee use our showmobile. I looked into it, and I guess I was under a different impression of what was involved, but the only thing that we would be doing is not charging them rent. All of our costs would be reimbursed, and our people would be, the staff people would be paid, and they would have a deposit paid in the event of any damage. I don't think we need to make money on everything, and sometimes it's okay to just contribute and be a part of something like this. So I would like that that we allow the Doylestown County Seat Bicentennial Committee to use our showmobile for those 2 days if they still want to use it, and without any rental fee to them.
Yeah, well, I think we were basically just trying to take care of the cost of our personnel, the police and the road people.
So you would agree?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Would you second that motion?
I'll second that.
Anybody else have any comments on that? Right, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to alert the board, you've been provided the memorandum with attachments regarding the Pebble Ridge, Woodridge recommendation from the Water Sewer Advisory Committee that regarding Pebble Ridge and Woodridge area and the feasibility study produced by the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority. This is going to be on this whole question and their presentation is going to be on our next meeting's agenda. So read through this material, and if you have any questions, you can formulate them now. You can send them to Sandra. Maybe she has answers. But let's be prepared for that presentation on May 15th, okay, as best we can. And that's all I have. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing for Act 167, the Stormwater Management Ordinance Revision.
The board last year approved an ordinance which was required to be approved by the township as a result of the actions taken by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection and Bucks County, the effect of which was to redo all of the township's stormwater management regulations, and it applied to any municipality within the Chamonix watershed. And those regulations required all property owners, including homeowners, who, even if they disturbed less than 1,000 square feet, to include volume controls of stormwater and to secure permits and approvals. Clearly, it was an onerous requirement that even if you wanted to put a shed to put your lawnmower in of 10 by 12, you had to go through a series of administrative and engineering hoops. Fortunately, the DEP, who was the main driver of this, in consultation with the county, came to the came to their senses, for lack of a better word, and has now authorized municipalities to amend that requirement so that if you have less than 1,000 square feet of disturbance, you no longer need to go through those hoops unless your activity contributes a significant amount of pollution to the waters of the Commonwealth, which I guess could conceivably be tearing out a septic system or something like that. So I prepared the ordinance to accomplish that amendment consistent with the new directive from the Department of Environmental Protection. It's been duly advertised in the Intelligencer and in the Bucks County Law Library, and therefore it's ready for you to conduct a public hearing and to take such action as you deem appropriate.
Is there any questions about the what has been presented to you that you have in your packet, the actual ordinance? Everyone had a chance to read it? Is there any any comments or questions from members of the public? This is a public hearing. It's a good thing we're all going to be allowed to do little bits of renovations to our properties without having to go through kinds of stormwater management requirements. So I think this is a great revision. Hearing no questions or comments, any members of the board?
Need a motion.
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Anybody, any comments? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Ordinance is passed. Thank you. Unfinished business.
Yes.
925 Sandy Ridge Road.
At your last meeting, actually came up some questions on a property that our Open Space Committee and Farmland Preservation Committee have been looking at. And this is a property that we've been studying with the Open Space Committee since January of 2010. We've had the approval by the board previously on the appraisals, and the appraisals have been completed on the property. There were some questions at the last board meeting regarding the eased and uneased area and the acreage and things. And on your table tonight is a plan that shows this. And Sandra, I think, is going to pop it up on the screen for us. She is.
There she is.
She's coming, sorry, so that the audience can see the area as well. Thank you very much.
So this is 7.2 acres on Sandy
Right.
Ridge.
You have Sandy Ridge Road on the left-hand side. The area in red would outline the 2.9 acres that would be retained and be out of the east area, and approximately 7.2 acres would be in a conservation easement. There were questions. Mr. Colello had concerns as that he would like to see the full frontage, but that is where the property owner intends to place a farm stand along Sandy Ridge Road. And
Which part? The 2.9?
yeah, and the 2.9, there would be, turn it this way.
Well, most of it's on Sandy Ridge, am I right?
Right, the whole frontage, but the hope is that the whole frontage would be eased, as Mr. Colello had mentioned at, I think it was the April meeting. And we had to go to the county and ask them, their open space board, whether or not they would allow a building to be in the eased area. And so we presented our concept to them, and the county open space board was very clear that they did not want to see any buildings in the eased area. So any building, as proposed by the property owner, would need to be outside of the eased area. In addition, they take off to the ultimate right-of-way, and Mario has shown that along Sandy Ridge. They did indicate they would love to see, bike hike path out there, as well as that's, also something they like to see, because that would allow people to really get a view of the property as well. And we do have bike path coming on the other side. So that could come further down the road, so to speak. But
What do you mean? We have a bike path on the other side of Sandy Ridge?
yeah, right up in this area over here, we have bike path, and it goes up towards Broad Street.
Would it be on the same side as the eased property, or on the other side of the...
On the far side.
On the far side?
It's currently
Across
on
the
the other
street,
side
yeah.
where it ends
There we go.
at the driveway.
Yeah.
Right, go down a little further, Sandra. Right, well, up further. But it's about in there is where it ends. And
Yeah.
what they
And then it goes
recommended,
up, to Broad Street.
yeah, they recommended a mid-street crossing there, and then they'll take it all the way down on the property on this side, so you have a view of the property. And then, Dick, you know this, but I think the road widens after you get past that. There's a little bit of a wider shoulder down there, too. So I think that was their concept. So.
I'd just like to prevent that sidewalk effect.
Right.
Sidewalk, you know.
Yeah, it's nothing on
We want to
down here, yeah. So, but
keep it rural looking. Okay.
yeah. So at this time, we would look for the board for direction so that we can move forward and actually make the full application to the County Open Space Board so that we can achieve a conservation easement on the property, which would be in perpetuity and would prevent any further subdivision on the property. I know Harold Johns from our Open Space Committee is here, and he can certainly tell you that the Open Space Committee has looked at this and taken its time in reviewing and making this recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Lee Schwartz. And it's good that we have a member of the committee here. Is there any other properties that could be considered to use this money for instead of one of the supervisors' properties at this time? I'm sure that everything's above board, and I love Sean, but it just has an appearance of not looking right. Thank you.
So over the past 2 years that I've been a member of the committee, we've looked at 6 or 7 properties. Many of them really didn't fit the requirements of the open space. A lot of them were properties where they were floodplains where nothing could be built anyway, so it didn't make sense for us to spend money to preserve something that can't be built on. The reason that we approached the Two Hill property was really for a couple of reasons. One, there's 1,000 feet of frontage along an existing bike path, so the community would have view of it. It also has a pond and woodlands for nature conservancy, so you're not just seeing like just a big field. The other thing is it integrates with, if you sort of farther up north, there's a cemetery which is open space, which the bike path comes along. So of all the properties that we've seen over the last 2 years, there's only one that would have been, I would say, a better fit, which we would have been able to purchase for active use parkland, but the developer didn't want to sell it to us. Out of all of them, there was a couple properties that were really, it was just in the middle of like a 10-acre tract. They wanted to preserve a place where only like one neighbor would ever see it. You didn't even have any visibility from the road. There are a couple properties that were very similar to that, where there was really no community. You couldn't even see it from, unless you were to trespass onto the land and go in there.
So you're saying this is the next best piece of property for the township to acquire? There's not another one that we could potentially look at instead?
So what we did about 18 months ago, we sent a letter to every property owner that owned more than 10 acres, informing them of the program, asking them if they would like to participate. We had a session here with some people from various agencies in the state, I don't remember all the acronyms, who put on a slideshow of what the program is, what are all the different options available. The 2 people that I believe were interested, their properties were deed restricted, so they couldn't build on them anyway. So they really didn't qualify for the program. So I know the board, the Open Space Committee, all the members of the Open Space Committee kind of did a hit the streets as well, looking at what properties were for sale, going up to different property owners that may have recently been deceased, asking the family if they would like to participate in this program. And that's how, through that hit the streets, since we didn't get any much response from the letters that went out to all the property owners, that's how I had approached actually Mr. Tuville and asked him about his property. And how
it sounds like you did an exhaustive search and you feel very comfortable that's the next best property. And if there is no other alternative, potentially use that money on at this point.
Yeah, so there's a lot of restrictions. It would be great if we can use the money to build like more bike trails,
sure,
but we can't.
I understand.
We went down that road. There's a lot of other things that we were trying to see what we could do with the money. And really, this kind of stuck out for two reasons. One, it's already proposed, and he has the plans to develop it. So it's not like someone that may develop it in the future, and we're going to save an extra bunch of houses, which then increases traffic, increases number of kids in school, and all that kind of stuff. But this is a property that's actively can be developed at any time now, where we'd be taking those 8 lots plus or 7 lots plus another cul-de-sac off of the books in the township, and you'll have a lot of neighbors down there that complain about stormwater, that if it gets developed, they hate to see that, as well as at one point there's a proposal up there for 30 townhomes. So we think adding this to the open space where it can never be developed by anybody, even if he passes on and his kids get it, they can't develop it.
Sure.
If he sells it, they can't develop it.
I think it was important just to get, for me, maybe everybody else, it's important to hear from somebody independently that is an excellent choice no matter who owns the property, and probably helps the whole situation from the public standpoint. So thanks for answering the question.
Does anybody else have any questions of this gentleman? Is there a motion to approve the application?
To send the
Make a formal application.
Make a formal
Application to the county.
application to the county.
I'll move for approval.
You'll move for that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? I will second it.
I'll just, for discussion, I talked to Sean a little bit about this, and, the way I feel on this is pretty simple. Barring the way that it's put together now, I'm not comfortable with the plans, and I don't think it's the right time for this, and I don't think that it sets a good example to the community right now. That's really how I feel about it at this time. And especially, this is basically the same plan that was presented to us 2 weeks ago, just more professional, but nothing was kind of taken into consideration in terms of some of the suggestions that I had. So that's kind of where I stand.
Barbara, can I comment on that?
Sure.
I know there were actually, I think at the last meeting, Rick asked for, regarding the road frontage, for instance, was one scenario you'd like to see if that could be an effort made to preserve it. At the direction, from that direction, I think Mario prepared 3 different concepts, one encompassing all that road frontage, one as the one you see here, which was very close to the original one, and then a third one in which it included all the coverage. And that was all taken to the, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, taken to the county. And at the county's direction, that was vetted with them, and they indicated that of the 3, basically they eliminated those other options for us, because one being the one where it would be too prohibitive of doing any further work on the farm or doing anything with the farm stand, and 2, they said, being rather that they don't preserve anything with buildings on it. I think the reason this looks so similar comes back to the one that was here was due to some of that due diligence or some of that recommendations. So with that said.
Well, I agree with a couple things. One, to reiterate what I had said last time, I do like the frontage on Sandy Ridge. I wanted all of the frontage and not the carved-out piece. And as Ryan mentioned, what we got was basically what we saw 2 weeks ago at the prior meeting. So my 2 issues were, one, I wanted the frontage along Sandy Ridge to stay non-developed, and I didn't want to pay money, whether it's available or not. There's ones, they come up, maybe not often, but we do get more that come up for consideration. My second one was I didn't want to pay the tax money to put an easement on the back X amount of acres where there's a pond, et cetera. We can't see it. We all have property in our township that we'd love to get money for, but we can't build on it, and there's no opportunity for view. So I don't think we should spend the money for it. And this is nothing new. I pretty much said these 2 points last time. And I think I personally would have liked to seen all three options. But this is what I'm faced with, either to accept or not accept this. And, where you left me.
May I speak to your concerns?
Sure.
It may be a little difficult with the baby. Let me give it a shot. And just so that everybody knows, I am Sean's wife, Geraldine, so I'm also owner of the property. First, I wanted to say that there are some residents that will benefit from the back of the land being preserved because of the development adjacent to our property. And I actually went on the Bucks County Open Space Program website and wrote down exactly what they wrote for the benefits of land conservation. And I think the points, 5 points apply to the entire property, but the first 2 points can reference the back parcel that you're concerned about. The first being water quality, and as you said, there's, and Mr. Johns also pointed out, there's wetlands back there. It says water quality. Wetlands and floodplains filter contaminants from water. 2, flood control. Protected stream corridors absorb stormwater runoff. And I would also add that it's a wildlife buffer, and the property backs up to the bypass, so any animals going through, there's possible concern of them being pushed if it gets developed further into the roads. And also sustainable agriculture. Family farms offer locally produced food. Recreation, parks, trails, and natural areas for public enjoyment, and of course lower taxes. And we cannot guarantee that what potential future owners of the property might do. So I kind of see this as your window of opportunity also, not that we would necessarily develop the back portion, but this way it would be preserved in perpetuity, I guess is what I wanted to say. Thank you. I took that directly from, their points for preserving land. And I think it applies to the entire project, and like I said, also the back section, if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on over, Dave. Your yard's not big enough, Dave.
I'm Dave Camiello. I just want to make a comment. If you have an opportunity to preserve land, you have to jump at it. The amount of money you're spending is not really that much. That's all I want to say.
Thanks. Mr. Woodall.
Thank you, Martha.
My name is Marvin Woodall. I'm a resident of the township, and I'm also the chairman of the board of the Heritage Conservancy. As you probably know, for those of you who have lived here all these years, for the last 51 years, the Heritage Conservancy has had the mission of preserving land and historical structures also. We believe this is a wonderful opportunity to preserve this land in perpetuity and to prevent any future overdevelopment of that area. We're quite impressed about a year ago when Mr. Toohill and his family decided not to develop the property and, in fact, to turn it into farmland. And we applaud that, and we'd like to see more of that happen. So we would speak in favor of approving this. Thank you.
Come on up, Mike.
Peter.
Peter, sorry. I knew that.
That's all right, Joe.
Well done.
I just wanted to make a comment about American sensibility. A few weeks ago, I made a request to preserve some land in Pebble Hill, and one of the things that I notice when I go to the Doylestown Borough Post Office is a parcel of land about the size of this piece in Pebble Hill. And on that land is this preservation sign saying it's been preserved. Mrs. Toohill mentioned the word perpetuity. And I think what my problem is with the current land preservation philosophy is that there's public use of a property and public ownership of a property. And I think that we have, probably as a country and locally in communities, gotten the idea that the public should buy property in the way that Teddy Roosevelt bought the national parks. And I have a fundamental problem with the ownership of property and the actual marketing of property when it comes to government. The problem is that when government gets into a market, the market is no longer a market. And what has happened to health care in this country and the way that the government has gotten into the market of health care is really a mirror image of what's happening with real estate. And I think that public ownership of property should be carefully, and I mean carefully, scrutinized. Public use of property, like the Parkway, or even Willow Grove Airport, public use of a property, I believe, should eventually mean that the property returns to the owner. In the case of Willow Grove Airfield, that property belonged to the Pitcairn family. The first autogyro flight in history was made at the Pitcairn Field, Willow Grove Airport. By eminent domain, that land was taken from the Pitcairns and used by the government, not owned by the government, used by the government. And the Fifth Amendment says public use. And I just wanted to go on record to say that public ownership of anything, whether it be an airfield or health care or even a small parcel like the Two Hills parcel, should be carefully scrutinized. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Anybody else?
I'm Lori Roach. I live on a property adjacent to that. So we've had a long-standing dealing with this property. I've been in that house now for over 15 years. I remember when it was owned by Abe Landis, and he would tell us stories about how this used to be the closest chicken farm to Philadelphia. I loved that I was near a farm. I have 6 kids. My kids loved running through his field, flying their kites, setting off their model rockets, enjoying the use of the space. It has been a great asset to my neighborhood. When Mr. Landis decided it was time for him to downsize and move on, we came to many meetings as a family and as a neighborhood saying, please, don't let them put, first it was 120 high occupancy townhouses, then it was 30-something else, then it was 12-something else, and we kept coming back and coming back. Finally, Mr. Toohill bought the property, came up with a plan for maybe a few houses across the front, maybe a few in the back, and we all decided, okay, we could live with that. It's zoned R1. We knew that when we moved in here. Now we have a great opportunity that nobody's ever going to have to go through this fight again, and this property will be set aside. As a person who lives there, I watch herds of deer go through. I watch the red fox out hunting in the morning. I watch bald eagles occasionally stop by that pond. We have a treasure, maybe, that we can keep.
Thank you. Anybody else? I want you to know I'm the liaison to this board. The Open Space Committee, and have been for 10 years. And I don't have a vote, and I certainly don't tell these residents what to do. They're residents, and I guide or I bring their concerns here to the board. I can tell you, since we got this money, I think it was in 2008, on the second Bucks County Open Space Initiative, we have looked at a dozen, and we sought out more. Whoever came to us, that was enough. We went and looked for other properties. And as Mr. John indicates, there was nothing worked as well as this. Now, Mr. Toohill, I know there's been, public perception, supervisors getting money, but he is still a resident, and I can assure you, his application was in well before he decided, well, I don't know when he decided, but a couple of years before he ran for supervisor. And when his application went in, we still looked at other properties, not like we stopped and just considered that. The board committees continued to look at other properties, and as Mr. Johns indicated, the board felt that this was I'm sorry, I keep calling it a board, the committee, Open Space Committee, thought it was the best bang for our buck. And that's why the committee asked me to bring it to the full board and on behalf of the committee, make the application. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any other comment?
I do have one comment.
Please.
Hi, I'm Joe Nappy.
Oh, you can take that. You can take that mic if you like. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I agree with Peter in his premise. I think that the method is wrong, but I support this preservation just because I think it's good for the township. But I think the method is wrong. I think ownership by government is wrong. Maybe a tax deduction. There's got to be a different method. Because we're in a capitalistic society. And the other reason I came up here, I want to speak later about something else I emailed you guys about the drug rehab treatment center. So I just wanted to touch base with that. But
okay.
I support it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to call the motion. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Is that a nay?
Nay for me.
Nay.
Nay? Motion fails. I'm sorry, folks. We can look at it again if there's more information that you need to have.
I think it's an excellent piece of property. I just don't like the configuration and the cutout. So just want that to be clear with everyone.
Okay. The Chamonix Greenway Phase 1 agreement.
As the board knows, we've received a grant from DVRPC for $130,148 to continue our bike path, and we now have all the paperwork in place. Need the appropriate officers to execute the agreement.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you. Hire policy for non-uniform employees.
This was tabled from your last meeting. There were some few changes that the board wanted, and I have made those changes and have it for your consideration at this time.
Anybody have any questions on this resolution? All in favor? Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Barbara, may I speak to that? Is that possible?
What? Speak to which?
To the issue of hiring employees?
Sure.
Thanks.
I'll read that.
I heard with concern the mention that after January 1st of this year, smokers are not eligible for employment with the township?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
I simply wanted to go on record to say that you're doing yourself out of a big labor market because there are a lot of intelligent wonderful, brilliant people who smoke.
Yeah, well, we're going to save a lot of money on health policy by doing that. And that's a taxpayer benefit. Thank you, though.
There's a lot
Appreciate
of
your comment.
smokers in the closet that will say they aren't smokers. Let's be honest, Barbara. There's a lot of smokers in the closet that are going to say they aren't smokers. It's what the police chief would say, an unenforceable law.
All right. Records retention, next item on the agenda.
We have the declaration to follow the Pennsylvania record schedule. We have to readopt this every time there's an amendment to the law, so we need to do that first.
Is there a motion to approve the Resolution 1627 on records retention disposition?
Second.
Pardon me? Oh,
1626 first.
I have to do 1626 first. That's the correct order. Thank you. Is there a motion for 1626? Yes?
Yes.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now 1627.
Yes.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Excellent. Thank you. Eagle Scout proclamation for Mitchell Alexander Budula.
Move for approval.
Budula. Troop 6. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thompson Toyota subdivision.
If I may, it's a land development application. Mr. Van Louvenet, if he was younger, he'd be up here faster. The applicant is seeking preliminary final land development plan approval to expand the existing Thompson Toyota facility. Certain of the existing automotive dealership buildings will be demolished and replaced, and the parking lot will be expanded. Furthermore, the stormwater basin facilities are proposed, and the site will be served by public water and public sewer. The plans before you tonight were prepared by Bowler Engineering. They were dated November 7, 2011, and were last revised March 6, 2012. Your Planning Commission has recommended approval on two occasions, once on January 23, 2012, and again on March 26, 2012, with conditions, and I'm prepared to go through those. Does the board need any edification on what's being proposed, or shall I go through the list of enumerated conditions?
No.
All right.
I remember this.
Familiar with it?
A lot, yes.
The conditions would be as follows. Compliance with any and all variances previously granted by the Doylestown Township Zoning Hearing Board. Next, compliance with the Pickering Courts and Summerson report dated March 13, 2012. Next, compliance with Boucher and James report dated March 13, 2012. Next, the lighting on the rooftop parking facilities shall be extinguished on or before 10 p.m. each evening. And I should note that the applicants requested a waiver from the provisions of Section 153.36C1A so as to have light standards be 17 feet high on top of the parking facilities, as the ordinance says they can't be more than 25 feet from ground level, which means they'd be lower than the parking facilities. Next, the Township shall further review and approve the vegetated buffer to exist between the facilities, which are the subject of the application, adjoining properties on Campbell Avenue, which will be resolved prior to the execution of development financial security agreements. Next, the applicant agrees in concert with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and the Township to install pedestrian crossing at the intersection so as to provide access to the shopping center across the street, with the understanding that securing the Department of Transportation signal light permit shall be deferred until such time as the applicant, the Township, have had the opportunity to coordinate that application with Plumstead Township. The applicant will escrow the value of that improvement as part of the financial security development agreements. Next, subject to the receipt of any and all permits and approvals from any agencies having jurisdiction over such matters, including but not limited to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, the Conservation District, the Environmental Protection Department. In addition, the applicant is seeking a variety of waivers. I'll give you the sections. They're all enumerated in the review letters and in the recommendations from the Planning Commission. They are Sections 153-12 related to preliminary plan, Section 153-20C10 related to facilities within 400 feet, Section 153-20E with respect to the traffic impact study. Instead, there'll be a trip generation study provided, but there will be a fee in lieu of the traffic study paid to the township. Next, Section 153-27A2 related to grades exceeding a certain level within 20 feet of the right-of-way is due because of the nature of the improvements. Next, 15727A5, related to driveways that adjoin Campbell Road, can't avoid it. Next, Section 15328H, we're talking about entrances no closer than 300 feet from Swamp Road, but the access to Campbell Avenue has already been removed as far as it can. 15334B3A, related to the spacing of street trees, can't be complied with because of driveway openings. 15334B3B, with respect to planting street trees every 5 feet, obviously due to the limitations that can't necessarily occur. 15334C2, related to tree preservation. The specifics are noted in a letter from Bowler Engineering dated 3/19/12 at item number 9, and your Planning Commission has reviewed all of that. Next, Section 15339C5, related to the grading of the edge of slopes. There will be some grading needed along Swamp Road and Campbell Avenue to build the bike and hike path, and also along the 611 bypass. Next, 15339D1, with respect to the slope of so it can be 3-to-1 and not 4-to-1, so as to avoid a retaining wall. You need to decide if you want to accept the additional right-of-way along Campbell Avenue. What's the pleasure? Have a recommendation, Mario?
Sure, take it.
We want it.
Okay.
Says our engineer.
Compliance with the Benoni report dated December 18, 2011, except with respect to the traffic study. Compliance with the review letter of the Doylestown Township Fire Marshal, extent not satisfied. Applicant to comply with the request of the Township Engineer with respect to the construction sequence so as to satisfy the engineer's concerns concerning the stormwater management basin functions and operations as a detention sediment basin. Next, the funding and execution of financial security agreements and development agreements in the form satisfactory to moi. With the understanding that the applicant shall reimburse Township for all expenses related to the application. Next, the execution of an operation and maintenance agreement related to privately owned stormwater facilities and BMPs in accordance with the Township stormwater management regulations. And I believe that is it. Mr. Van Loevenay, do you agree to those conditions?
Yes, Mr. Garten was kind enough to give us an opportunity to review them. We have reviewed them, and they are acceptable.
I'll make a motion that we approve this applicant under the conditions set forth by our solicitor.
Second.
Any questions or comments, concerns? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. It's
Thank you.
5-0. Ms. Delgadio, are you able to write moi? Yes. Spell that? Okay. I'm not sure I could.
Well, I meant by myself. How's that? We'll fix it.
Thank you. All right. Okay, bills list from May 1st, 2012. Is there a
Move for
motion?
approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that the last item on the agenda?
Announcements. Mr. Nappy wanted to ask her.
Yes, sir. Do you care to address the board at this point? And the people of Doylestown Township, since we are recording or actually web streaming live and the whole bit? Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And can you identify yourself again, please, for the record?
Absolutely. My name is Joseph D. Nappy, and I live at 208 Southwind Drive in Doylestown Township. And pretty recently, I was not aware, just about a week ago, I became aware of the Aldi Center that has gone from the borough and moved into our backyards. It's actually very close to the Two Hill property as well. I really want to say, first of all, that, my heart goes out to people I have with great passion, compassion, and for people that try to get help. And there's a lot of people that need help, and the people that work very hard to correct people that have problems, addictions. Respectfully, I'm not attacking that. What I'm attacking is the location of. I put together various peer-reviewed documents from universities around the world, some specific to Pennsylvania, some just here in the United States.
Can I just ask you a quick question, because I was unfamiliar? Where is the new location?
It's right next to the tennis club in Doylestown.
State Farm building.
State Farm building.
State Farm.
Oh, okay.
It's a massive building, and I have several points. I mean, it's massive, so that would indicate probably some expansion and stuff like that. There's let me get back. With great respect for the people that are doing that, it's the location that I attack, near schools, near children. It's in a residential community. I have to drive by it every day to get to my house. If my wife goes to walk with my 2-year-old child, they're in this area. So I did a little research, and I brought up a couple facts here. Not just stuff people say, but facts.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Where did they move from?
It was in the borough.
It was from the Liberty,
right across the street from the
They've been there for 30
Christian
years.
church.
Right. It's a resident. That's the residential facility.
Yeah. And I'll speak to that.
No, it's office facility.
Just office? Mm-hmm. What's going into the State
Office
Farm?
facility. It's an LI zoning district which permits the medical office use in that.
And there's no treatment there?
There's treatment, but it's not a...
It's not a residential facility.
It's not a residential facility.
But there's treatment there, right?
Yes, as
So-
it would be.
so
if
some
there
of
were
that treatment
cancer
would be-
treatment. It would be no different than if someone were taking cancer treatment.
It's different than cancer treatment? It's not different than cancer treatment?
It's an addiction. It's a mental health issue, and there's doctors and nurses that treat their patients that come to the facility.
Okay.
And treat the people that...
That would be an opinion. It would be an opinion. I don't think it's an accurate opinion, but that would be an opinion. Respectfully, I don't mean to disagree, but
Did they treat patients in the other facility?
Yes.
In town, when it was in town?
Yes.
Do you know if there were any incidences as a result of...
I know firsthand there were several incidents. I know the tanning salon that was less than 150 feet away was armed robbery. 16-year-old girl was working after school. She worked at the tanning salon, and she said that she recognized the person as standing outside that facility several times. To my knowledge, I'm friends with this girl. I don't know how far she pursued it, but they did not find the person. But, I looked her in the eye. I saw how scared she was. I saw what happened to her. I don't think that they kept open too much longer after that. Now, somebody it could be argued, walk out of there, or they could walk from anywhere. I don't have proof to that point, other than to look in that young girl's eyes and have her tell me firsthand.
What would you have us do?
Well, I don't think that it's appropriate now for me to say this needs to be moved right away. But I don't know if they have a lease program. I don't think it should be renewed. There should be higher security around it. There should be, 2 weeks ago, I'll get to this point later, 2 weeks ago, somebody came to the back door of our house at 2 o'clock in the morning and was rattling the door. Our dog went nuts. I went out back. Somebody tried to rob our house. So here's a couple of facts. And I did call the police, and thank you for coming. We appreciate that. Provisional data from 1997. We'll go through history here, and I'll make it brief. And I left you a little copy here.
Okay.
It says, and I'll read it respondents arrested in the past year for possession or sale of drugs and driving under the influence had the highest percentage of illicit drug use in the past year. It also goes down to say that past year illicit drug users also were 16 times more likely than non-users to be arrested booked for larceny, theft, 14 times more likely to be arrested or booked for felonies. We'll go on. In 2004, 17% of state prisoners admitted that they committed their current offense to obtain money for drugs. We'll go on. Offenders who successfully, these are all peer-reviewed articles, one of 167,000 peer-reviewed articles that were specific to this case, and I'm making the connection just to bring it around, that drugs equal crime. Drugs in the area equal crime. Now, if you have 99 people that go in there that have good intentions, and you have just the one person who wouldn't have been here if that center wasn't there before, wouldn't have been here.
Well, don't you think that it's better that they're going there to get treatment than being out in the streets creating more crime? At least the folks going to that facility are seeking help.
A lot of it is court ordered, though. It's not voluntary.
Can I ask
a question? Your arm.
Mr. Nappy, is your concern correlated with any specific, besides the incident you referred to, that you're obviously connecting with perhaps the center at your home. Has the police department confirmed anything that there's like an uptick or anything had changed since they opened or anything? Or is this your concern more about what might happen or rather things that have, any incidents that have happened?
Chief Logan, let me ask you this. There's been 30 or 40 robberies in Doylestown recently, and the center won't disclose to me whether those people were patients there, but I'm sure that you have a pretty good idea of how many of those people were drug-related or robbing places to get drug money.
The former location of the center was in Doylestown Borough. Mm-hmm. I do not have their statistics. I did go back and look from the middle of February when the center went into Doylestown Township. We've had no crime in that area, other than the suspicious occurrence at your home.
You've had no break-ins?
None.
In Doylestown?
In Doylestown Township, in that area, none.
All right.
Right. We also checked a year ago when the Aldi Counseling made interest in application for the facility. We did talk to John Davis in the borough. We reviewed it with our solicitor, checked it with our zoning, checked it with the MPC, published it in the newspaper, copied the board on it, and found that the use fits our zoning and fits determination to be in the township, in the LI zoning district, which has been there for a long time. The building's been vacant for a long time. It's a medical office use, and it fits with our zoning.
I did get a message to that effect, and I appreciate it. There is a movement nationwide, though, in California. If we were in California, there's lawyers that will take the case pro bono to sue and have it removed. There's a movement. There's places in Tennessee, California, Texas, all around the country where they're moving them out of residential areas for the exact, for the relation for drugs and crime. One of the articles that I put in here, a gentleman walked right out of a facility, walked down the street, robbed a convenience store, and shot a man.
Again, I mean, we did look into it. We checked with John Davis in the borough. They've been there for 30 years. I live, in the area, probably equal distance from where they were to where they are.
Right. So, if you don't care and you'll do nothing about it, that's fine. I just want to be on record. I just want to be on record. I'm in the middle of speaking. I just want to be in record to say that when something happens, God forbid, when something happens, people are going to hold your feet to the fire, knowing that it is an increased danger. There is no doubt bringing more people in who have drug problems increases the danger.
Do we know I live right by there, so I certainly share some of the concerns, but do we know where the counseling center was before in the borough? You talked about the specific incident at the tanning salon, mm-hmm. but are there any documented incidences other than that, which obviously did not go further and is not on record?
That's a good point. I think that should have been looked into before it was approved.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't looked into. If we checked with John Davies, then there...
No requirement for approval.
We don't, somebody wants to lease the property and it's a permitted use. We're not in the position to...
They didn't lease the property. As I understand, they bought the property.
I believe they bought it.
And they bought it. The zoning ordinance permits it. Stephanie checked with John Davis, who said there were no issues with the Aldi facilities in the borough.
And they've been around like 30 years.
We put a notice in the newspaper that they'd applied for this use. We even did more than you would normally do. We got no response, and frankly, I think we all agreed it meets the zoning ordinance. The other thing is, that just so you talked about the litigation, but there used to be a provision in the municipality's planning code in the state that said that there were prohibitions about these facilities within certain zoning districts. And the Third Circuit, which is one step below the U.S. Supreme Court, said that those restrictions were unconstitutional. So we didn't have a whole lot of choice legally with respect to the application. And there's nothing that this township or this board can do at this point because it's a permitted use. They own the property. We will obviously, the chief will be vigilant with respect to any issues that occur and will not certainly ignore your concerns, but it's a matter of there's not much we really can do.
And I did speak to Tom Smith from Harris & Harris, who is the attorney for Aldi Counseling and sits on their board, And he did say, because I did mention we had an inquiry, which I guess was your inquiry, that they would be more than happy to meet with any residents who have a concern and, show us their facility and show you their facility and meet with you and try to address any concerns that you might have.
Yeah.
So they're trying to reach out right away. And like I said, I think they've just moved in the last couple months, although they started probably looking at it and doing their due diligence about a year ago. They would certainly be more than happy to be a good neighbor and sit down.
It's not welcome as far as I'm concerned. I have no interest in hearing what they have to say unless it's talking about safety measures that they're going to take to ensure that we're, safe. Ms. Van, you mentioned you lived in the area. You take your child, walk by there? Would you feel comfortable?
Well, again, my first step would probably be to, instead of just kind of tuning it out, I would probably meet with them, because we don't know what kind of safety measures they are taking. I mean, you don't know what they have in place there. If John Davies is telling us from the borough that they, in the 30-plus years they were in the borough, that they've had no problems, they obviously have something set up in place. So that would be my first. I mean, I'm not discounting any of your concerns, but the first thing that I would suggest is to go sit down with them.
Well, in fairness to me, I've only had about a week to work on it. I actually have 2 full-time jobs, so I haven't really researched it, but I'm going to find out if there were specific incidents. And somebody just saying, oh, nothing happened, when they're trying to get something approved. That's
this is our borough managers from Doylestown, so I think that, they would have no reason to lead us to believe something that wasn't true.
I'm a facts guy. I want to see the facts. I don't just take somebody's word for it.
Yeah. Well, we welcome you to come back after you've had that opportunity.
I appreciate it. Listen, thank you very much for listening to me. No offense to anybody. You're all doing a great job. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I certainly respect what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoops. Go ahead, Dave. Please.
You first, I think. Hi, I'm Dave Camiolo. I'm Joe Nappy's neighbor. His concerns about the Aldi drug center. When it was in town, I know they all came off the bus to go to the center there. I know they're driving to this place. So my concern is, are they driving high? Because I know when I was driving by there one time, there was a pickup truck driving out of the drug center, and he almost hit me, and he was waving his fist at me at one time. So that's my concern. And I think it is a good idea. I think we should meet with a person at the Aldi. So, yes, we'd like to get his name, if that's okay.
Okay, thanks. Peter, why don't you take that one there so you don't have to go so far?
I like the podium, too.
You like the podium, too? Okay.
I simply wanted to respond to what Mr. Nappy said. There are several reasons why someone should trust these intervention centers. The number one reason is because there's a lot of love involved with an intervention center, Mr. Nappy. The way that a person behaves in our society sometimes requires an intervention. And the way that our society has been merciful, has been thoughtful about this, is to not throw somebody into a dungeon, but to have them speak to a professional. And that professional helps that person either come down from the behavior or alter the behavior. In psychology, a psychiatrist must submit to psychoanalysis before a psychiatrist can become a psychiatrist. The way that a person is treated, and I think Georges Santayana said it, society is judged by the way it treats its prisoners. The way that this society lifts itself above suspicion or fear is to practice mercy and practice thoughtfulness. And you're speaking to a person who's had first-hand experience. And the people that I was associated with in those experiences were number one people. And I don't want to seem undignified when I talk about it, but there are times when I would like to hold a gala dinner for these people. And what I suggest to you is to get involved. My cousin Patty is involved with youth and intervening with the problem behavior. And she's inspiring. She's an inspiring person. And the people that put their lives on the line, I'm sure Chief Logan can talk to you about that. The people that put their lives on the line are the people not only that are saying we can give these people a break and we can help these people in a way that is going to battle suspicion and fear. I suggest to you that you not only meet with these people, meet with the people who intervene, but with the people who are intervened for, because it's a wonderful experience. It's a humbling experience. It's an American experience to meet with people, hear their problems, offer suggestions if one can offer suggestions, and know that you're helping them. Now, there are several locations in this town that other people who have been convicted of armed robbery walk out of. I don't remember in my memory hearing about another robbery outside the courthouse. I don't, in my memory, remember armed robbery near this township building. And people are led to this township building in handcuffs. So, again, I don't want to talk about this in an undignified manner, because dignity truly is unassailable. But through my experience, and that's experience, not a fortiori or a priori or any other kind of logic. Through my experience, I know that these intervention centers are wonderful places.
Yeah, real brief, because we don't, don't need to have a continuing discussion.
I'll even come from here, so it's a little faster. Peter, I like Peter. He speaks really well. He's a nice guy. Stick around, though. No, I'm not going to attack. I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to attack you. All I want to say is, in actuality, is I actually support the Women's Center. I actually give money, both my business and personally, and time. Additionally, I have a family member who I've supported financially for 20 years who is afflicted with drug addiction, and I know firsthand how they can turn when they really need drugs. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Anybody? All right. This better be good.
Just one final comment. As a member of the Open Space Committee, I'm kind of disappointed with the way things went tonight. And I think I speak for the whole committee. I can say that of the 2 years that I was there, I'm just a community representative, but there are experts in open space, and this is the only property that we unanimously agreed upon should be sent and for vote to actually be included. It's hard to get people to want to preserve their land, mainly because there's a huge financial impact. You can't sell it to developers and cash out and leave your kids and grandkids that money. Not only that, you're only getting 75% of the fair market value, and you're being asked to contribute 25%. If we add on top of that the requirement that we want to dictate which portions of the land should be preserved, I don't think we'll ever get any land preserved. I would love for, I know it's not unanimous that people would like to see this piece of land maybe preserved, but I would welcome, if I'm on TV, I'd welcome everybody to come to the next open space meeting, which is the first Monday of the month, and look at all of the properties that we've reviewed over the last 4 years, and look at the pros and cons of each of them. And I think, don't take my word for it, but come and see each of the layouts and each of the aerial maps of them, and see which one really benefits the community the most. And I'll almost guarantee that you'll find that that this property is the one that, the only one that we've seen in 4 years that even comes close. And this doesn't use all our money. It uses half of it. We still have another search to go. So if anybody else has property they want to preserve, please bring it to the Open Space Committee.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? All right, good. Next meeting of this board, I don't mean good, nobody's talking anymore. I mean good, we're just going to get through this meeting. Doylestown Township Board will next meet on Tuesday, May 15th. I know where you live, Lee. So knock it. Touch the Truck is Saturday, May 5th, 10 a.m. to 1 at Central Park. It's free event, shred event, also a free event. Saturday, May 12th, 2012, 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Administration Building. The annual Doylestown Township Golf Outing is Monday, June 4th, 2012 at the Country Club, Doylestown Country Club. Registration deadline is May 18th. Seeing no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. There are checks to sign.